I'm going to stop pretending to not remember that we do intros when we don't do intros. God, what dumb I am.
Oh God, you Joe Pesci that laugh.
Hey, you guys know what's on Netflix for one more day?
What?
Watch it while you can, baby. My favorite movie, Goodfellas. One of.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Its hoof got caught in the grate. I really loved seeing
the hoof.
The hoof. What are you always talking for? That is one of my favorite scenes in that movie. Marty Scorsese's mom is just
spectacular.
Yeah. Can we talk about how scary Rutger Hauer finally is this month?
I think you mean sexy.
I mean sexy scary. Yeah.
It's both. True.
It's both. Like you just want him to hold you down violently, but then, he wants to murder you. That's the problem. So
and not with his penis.
Right. Heather, we've read a story about an episode that we did with Radu, and it was very erotic.
It was. Yeah.
It was close to masturbatory for me. It was really good. Like, it was like genuinely like, but my question to you is, could you write a story like that about John Ryder?
I could
write that story.
I could. Actually, I think we should all take part in writing the Hitcher fanfic together and put that on a Patreon. Do you guys would the listener
if they gotta pay, I'll make it real steamy.
We will make it worth your whiles, dear listeners. If you want to get a little sexy, you want to get a little scary.
It's gonna show a little nip.
We'll be showing more than nip. It'll be full on. It'll be nips plural.
Nips plural. The plurality of the nip,
which is also the name of Chris and I's new erotica podcast. Nips plural.
Nips plural, or the plurality of the nips.
The plural.
That's like Confederacy of the dunces.
It's like the secret of the ooze. The plurality.
The Teenage Ninja Turtles 3, Secret of the Nips. Plurality of the nips. Let's talk about the Hitcher on this episode of the Culture Cast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Chris Dashu. Joining me, as always, all the way from destinations unknown, but they're probably dark. Your friend and mine, Father Malone.
Hey, everybody! It's the Hitcher. So excited to talk about this movie.
Are you saying that you are the Hitcher?
No, I am not saying that.
I don't trust it.
I don't trust it either.
I do spend a lot of time on the road, folks.
Any other context that might be words for investigation into where you've been? Israel Keys traveled for work too,
Oh my goodness, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. And our good friend and yours, all the way from Mondo-Heather and Diabolique, Heather Drain.
Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for having me on once again. And Father Malone, have you encountered any lot lizards in your travels?
I see them from time to time, actually. But I encounter would mean that I would spend more than like 2 minutes outside of my car at any truck stop across America.
That's smart. That is smart. Truck stops, I find, are best approached in a very touch and go manner with minimal touch.
That's my policy anyway.
Yeah.
I think we need to start investigating all the truck stops, Jesus, truck stops that you've been to, Father Malone.
Don't do that.
Missing women at each one.
I mean, it just, that's a lot of time and effort you'd have to put in.
Right.
That's all. I don't have anything to hide. I just think you've got better things to do.
Disparate dots don't form a pattern, right?
That's correct.
Do you have a nipple rating for truck stops? Does this truck stop get 1 nips or 2?
3 if they have showers.
So like a Love's then?
Yeah, yes, like a Love's. Oh my god.
They have showers and they also have stalls with very
emporium.
Yeah, stalls with very low walls too.
Turn here, drive 3 miles on the left. Oh, okay. Sounds legit.
I'll be there. So speaking, go ahead.
Why is that sign handwritten? Oh well, I'm game.
Yeah, I am desperate and lonely.
Elijah C. Scuggs freak show. I'm going there.
Oh God, I love that movie.
What if that was the Hitcher? Him and John Ryder just go to Freakland by accident. See, there you go.
God, they could make that today, couldn't they?
Yeah.
That would be
Rick Hauer died, didn't he?
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
Boo.
That would be my erotic story, actually, based on the Hitcher.
What? Elijah C. Scuggs and oh God.
Yeah.
God. On this episode of the Culture Cast, we are talking about the final film of Rutger Hauer month. That film being I almost called it The Witcher. That is another thing. The Hitcher from 1986.
Heading west on the long, lonely highway, only his dreams for company, until...
My mother told me never to do this.
Before many miles, he'll wish he'd taken his mom's advice. When Jim Halsey let the Hitcher into his car, he opened the doors of hell.
What do you want?
I want you to stop me. Once you've met the Hitcher, you'll never pick up another.
My wallet's in my pocket.
Shut up! We know how to do it.
Jesus!
Why are you doing this to me?
You're a smart kid. I'll figure it out.
I didn't do it. I didn't do any of it. I'm not a killer. Hold on! This morning, this guy tried to kill me. He's been following me ever since.
Why didn't he kill us?
Hi, kid.
I don't want to die! Yeah!
The terror starts the moment you stop for the Hitcher.
What do you want?
I want you to stop me.
So film is directed by Robert Harmon, written by Eric Red, and it stars, like we've mentioned, Rutger Hauer as a serial killing hitchhiker. Wow. It's almost like the title gave it away. C. Thomas Howell plays a teenager who learns how to grow up through the magic of murder. Because this is a coming of age story with a serial killer. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it's not a horror movie, but it's like you're going to learn how to grow by murdering Rutger Hauer.
That's right. Some coming of age films are about you gotta lose your virginity, right? Like, or this is the summer I learned about death. Well, this is the summer where I was nearly murdered by a psychopath who only wanted me to murder him.
Or have sex with me. I'm not sure which one.
That's right. That interpretation is maybe valid too.
Yeah.
I think it's a little.
It certainly is, but it seems to be an angry interpretation. Like the movie is dodging that subtext. Like, I've read reviews that excoriate this film based that it never confronts the obvious subtext of the sort of the sexual tension between these two characters. And I'm like, it doesn't really give any relationship with these two characters other that they have to collide. Like, I don't know. You can throw any interpretation at it, but I don't think you can dismiss the movie because it didn't cater to any one of those.
That's fair. So Heather, tell me a little bit about your experience with The Hitcher.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm trying to remember the first time I saw it. I was definitely in my teens and already on the road to having a huge Rutger Hauer love, which has continued on to this very day. Rutger Hauer, for me, I love him in everything. And I think he's one of those rare actors that has such a singular presence and just force and talent that, it's Rutger Hauer. You can't really replace that guy. Like, he he can do what he does. And The Hitcher is, I think, where that comes into really full force. And it's such a great movie. I think it's honestly one of the best made horror movies in the 1980s, if not ever. And I love the fact just there are certain details in this film that you didn't see in the 80s. And especially I think the location, like using the American Southwest. Because when you think of horror, you tend to think of like either gothic sort of castles or forests or woods, maybe even like suburbia if you're going kind of like a Nightmare on Elm Street route. But the desert, I've always felt like having that wide open space just in some ways is almost creepier. And it's to me, it's almost like a character in this movie. So in short, yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of it.
What about you, Father Malone? Tell me a little bit about your experience with The Hitcher.
Okay. I happen to know, I looked up the opening day for this, which was February 21st, 1986, which means I saw this movie on February 21st, 1986 in the Showcase Cinemas in Revere, Massachusetts with my best friend, Brian McMahon. Brian McMahon's dad was a cop and got into movies for free and loved movies, as did Brian and I. So, we were there opening day because he and I were devoted fans of Rutger Hauer, thanks to Blade Runner. We were going to see anything he was in. Plus, we saw the preview for this movie, and it showed Rutger Hauer from one of the climactic scenes in the film jumping through somebody's windshield. And we were just like, we need to see that movie.
Valid reason to see it, I would add as well.
Yeah. So like we didn't need to convince his dad too hard, but we had to be there on opening day to see this movie. I love this movie. I've loved it from that first time I saw it. I watched this movie a lot, actually. And was overjoyed to have an actual excuse to watch it again. I agree with everything you said, Heather. It does take place in a section of America that is largely unexplored cinematically, particularly in the horror genre. And I think people are confronted with those wide open spaces and don't know what to do because most people have no vested interest in horror who are making horror, I think. But this not only circumvents any of the sort of usual pitfalls of like daylight horror, but it like absolutely embraces them. And it is spectacularally filmed. Eric Red, who what a 1-2 punch, like this year and the next.
Yeah.
In 1986, right. he wrote this movie, which is one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen. And then the following year, wrote my favorite vampire movie of all time, which is Near Dark. Again, set in the American Southwest.
Yes.
But it just like, good God, man, what a role. That's my experience with The Hitcher.
So I had never seen this movie before.
Oh,
envious.
Wow.
And it's weird to me because like another Rutger Hauer movie that was essentially maligned when it initially came out, but featuring essentially his 1B performance, if Blade Runner is 1A. Like, it's weird to me that this movie gets that same weird response that Blade Runner gets, because it too feels like a movie far ahead of its time. In the 80s, it's shooting horror out in the open daylight, which nobody was doing in the 80s, especially not this kind of movie. They're mashing two genres together because it's a car exploitation movie ultimately at its heart. And then there is a horror element put on top. It's horror in a way that, yes, it's a horror movie, but like the horror comes from real life horror, not like not a quote monster unquote, which is again a hard thing for a lot of horror fans to get around, because I guess horror fans aren't really fans of real life horror. They would prefer much more monsters and slashers, and like that's what he is. He's a serial killer. He's a monster,
right?
But he's a human being, and that's ultimately for me what makes this movie so unbelievably scary, is because he's just a dude.
Yeah.
And he's just a dude. You picked up the wrong person. That's this entire movie's conceit.
One of my favorite opening lines of any movie, this flick, C. Thomas Howell says, "My mom told me never to do this," which every mother has told us about hitchhiking. Don't ever pick up a hitchhiker. You don't know who's getting into your car. It is the soundest advice ever. And and the character knows it and breaks it anyway. And let's in the whirlwind, because he is a very human character, but is he? Like, the case can be made that this is just the personification of evil, or this is his character's death, or I don't know who this guy is. I love that I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the beauty and the uniqueness of this film is it gives you hints, but it doesn't baby you. And I always feel like sometimes the best horror movies, especially, are ones that don't give you easy made explanations for every single thing. And it's like Chris, you talk about people, or I think both of you are talking about just a lot of people have noted the sexual is it a sexual tension? Is John Ryder's part of his interest in C. Thomas Howell's character? Is it homoerotic? And it's not really explained. I mean, my sort of take on it is I think he's just kind of he adds that tension to kind of further fuck with C. Thomas Howell, to just make him feel even more like I'm going to mount you, but I'm not, maybe not sexually mounting. I'm going to mount your soul to my wall. Like a hunter, because that's the thing. He's the hunter, and C. Thomas Howell's the hunted. There's times where I'm almost like watching it where I'm like, it's almost like if a Wendigo was a serial killer, like a human, because there is like this almost supernatural charisma about him too. And of course, again, that's also like Rutger Hauer, like
right.
Rutger Hauer can do that.
Yeah,
but absolutely, like a valid interpretation of the character as well. Like, who knows where he just sort of appears on the road and then, he ends up dead on it. But like, no one can find a fingerprint or a trace of this guy. No one knows his name. No one knows anything about him. We only know his name is Ryder because he told the kid. And that's probably a lie too. His name is Ryder.
John Ryder. Yeah,
John Ryder, like the most generic thing you could think of.
Well, the other thing about all of this is because they never find him, because it is so kind of, he is to the wind in a lot of ways, it does lead kind of to these more of an open interpretation of the movie, because we never got the Hitcher 3, John Ryder's return, or John Ryder's prequel movie. I don't know how we avoided it, like in a lot of ways, realistically, because they remade the movie. But like this character feels like the kind of character that somebody would watch and go, I want to know what he was doing before C. Thomas Howell picked him up.
Oh man, thank God nobody did.
But you know what I mean? Like, it feels perfect for that in a lot of ways.
Don't even utter it. I'm afraid it's now that you've mentioned it, somebody's going to make this happen and call it Rides Again.
Oh, the Hitcher rides again.
And they're going to have him be quippy. Like, you know what he needs? We need funny quips.
Yeah.
Like
we need to undercut the emotions of the movie by funny quipping.
I mean, that's odd. You're thinking about 80s horror in this movie, in that landscape. It's so refreshing to have a killer that couldn't just easily be turned into a cartoon or a doll.
Right.
So.
John Ryder toys.
What's funny is Rutger Hauer just sort of like effortlessly throws off all of that attitude, but it doesn't ever feel like a quip. Like there are moments, his reactions in this movie, they startle me to this day. Just like there's a scene between the two of them where they're seated at a booth, and C. Thomas Howell has a pistol, which he doesn't realize is unloaded. And Rutger Hauer mimes that he has a gun himself, and then, basically shocks him as if he shot him to pull the trigger. And now he realizes the gun is empty. And when he sees C. Thomas Howell's anguish, it's a look of genuine compassion, like, oh, you poor kid, like, like you really thought you were going to kill me just then. And it doesn't seem mean at all. It seems genuine empathy from this character. I don't know. It's a wonderful performance.
Oh,
it's not loaded. He says it to him so nicely the second time. It's not loaded.
Oh God, that scene, the whole act of him licking the pennies.
Oh yeah, and sticking them on his
eyes.
And the second one, he takes it and he sticks it on C. Thomas Howell's tongue too. I don't know if you noticed that.
He does.
He takes it and then he goes, and then he puts it on his, and then he sticks it on his eye.
Why are you doing this to me?
Right.
You're a smart kid. You figure it out. And then he puts pennies on his eyes. What a fucking beautiful moment.
Okay, would you guys please refresh my memory on this? Was that the whole pennies thing? Was that in the script, or was that Rutger? Because I know like the whole thing where Jennifer Jason's lead character meets her grisly, drawn and quartered demise, that I guess in the script she was just going to be smashed by a truck, and Rutger Hauer was like, oh, that she should be drawn and quartered.
No, initially the script was that she was tied to a pole.
Oh, okay.
And then harnessed to a truck, and he ripped her in half. And then they had to write that down. because every studio is like, we love this movie. We will never make this movie with the heroine getting ripped in half. And so I think they concocted like these other scenarios where she died, never intending to use any of them. And Rutger Hauer like had read some of those and said like, what happened to the thing where we rip her in half?
Oh man, I love him.
Yeah.
And honest to God, like for me, that's my biggest complaint with the entire movie is that scene. And the way that scene is handled, it's awful. The fact that they don't show it or make it worse, to me, is like a kind of a weird cop-out for this movie. They show everything else.
I know.
There are scenes where there are characters who are being,
I don't know. I didn't need to see it.
Weird. It's not the matter of
I really cared about her. I didn't need to see anything but what was happening in that cab, honestly, because that's what the whole scene was about. I know it's about her, and I love her.
Why show any of it is my question then. Why even pretend to show it? Just show the cab. It could have been more impactful if it had just been the cab the whole time and you just hear her.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta cut. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. I guess partially. I mean, Chris, I can definitely see why.
Yeah,
but I guess for me, like watching it, having a little bit of subtlety in a landscape where there's so much grisliness kind of made it interesting a little bit. I mean, but also I think to Father Malone's point, I do think a lot of it is you do generally really love this character, and to see a female character that's not just made the instant romantic heroine is so refreshing. Because I mean, not even just in horror, but just in Hollywood films in general, if you see a female lead or a supporting character, she's either going to be a mother, a girlfriend, a wife, a hooker, or a granny. Like that's it. Like the women usually aren't always allowed to just be,
And it would have been a very easy thing for this character to fall into that trap. Just the girl he picks up along the way. Because for a little while, this movie becomes the getaway, like with those two on the run together.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a car exploitation movie. It's a car exploitation movie at its heart. It really is. Like
exactly. So, so it would have easy to have, just made her just the pretty love interest, and that ain't her. And I think that's the character as written, but definitely thanks to Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was, I think, born with gravitas. Like I believe every role she's ever played, I have 100% believed her. And I believe this. He gets into that diner, and just the way she's treating him feels so like real and lived in. And I do spend a lot of time at truck stops. Okay, so I know I've interacted with these people, the ones who are stuck there, not necessarily the assholes who are just abusing them, but and she nails that part, and the empathy that character gives off. I've read reviews that think that her character is an idiot and just sort of fodder to be murdered, and I can't wrap my head around that, because it is such an interesting character, like a decent character amidst all this chaos who does the right thing. Like you don't get that in horror movies much anymore. So or ever. So like that is I don't know. I'm babbling.
I think ultimately, I guess my kind of reason for saying that is my interpretation of the movie is it is so brutal in a way, and because it's such a brutal movie, my expectation would be that the movie is really going to push that envelope as far as it can by giving us a reason to really watch and root for C. Thomas Howell in the end. Because, I mean, at the end of the movie, you want your audience so emotionally invested that the moment he's sitting there in that car looking at Rutger Hauer, you have the entire audience screaming, run that motherfucker over. And like, you get there with the movie, obviously. You get there with the emotions, the way the movie presents them. But I think they could have just pushed it a little bit more. I don't know.
I agree with you that this could have been a much more Jaws-like ending, a much more rousing ending.
It's not the rousing ending. It's just like, I want you to really feel like Rutger Hauer is not pulling any punches and he just doesn't care. Like almost that scene with him in the car is too long. You want him to just be like, you're fucking around here. We're 3/4 of the way through this. Just like make your choice. You know what I mean? Like Rutger Hauer at the end of the movie, he's so kind of unhinged and just singular focused on destroying C. Thomas Howell that I just want him to stop fucking with him, because at some point it's like, why are you continuing? Just kill him now.
Right. Like, but back to the Jennifer Jason Leigh Nash being torn in half here. Like I get what you're saying. Like they could have played that up so that, you know, he'd be more emotional and we'd be more emotional with him, like in the next the sort of climax of the film, maybe. But did you want them to like just keep cutting to her, like being stretched more and more? And did you want to see her
either show her being disemboweled or don't show shots of her during that scene, cutting back and forth? Because it's
I still think it's horrific, and it tore my 13-year-old heart out.
Not disputing that, but the thing is, it yields such a strange cut that almost feels like it's a TV movie. That weird cut.
Well, it fades to black,
right? And that's
like insert commercial here usually,
right? Which is so strange, and it's kind of out of place. And it's just like, it feels like
it needed a better transition. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't.
And again, I just
they could have shown any more than have been a tasteful film. You know, like there's nothing to me. You could argue that all the other acts of violence that we get to see could be labeled gratuitous and just exploitative. But like this, no one could argue that it is. And it is kind of central to the movie that he has to make this choice in this cab with this guy. Like, you know, that he's no longer going to be an innocent human, you know?
Sure. Well, and again, I mean, ultimately, we could really just chalk all of this up to studio meddling.
100% is, because if you read the history of this movie at all, it's all a fight about this scene.
Yeah, really, like 100%. And look, we all know they ended up getting it anyways. In the long run, they got it the next time they remade this movie. They got it with the remake.
Right, which is god-awful.
The remake's terrible. Yeah.
I saw 100%. It in the theater at the time and hated it. And then for this, I tried to rewatch it last night, and I got about 30 minutes into it, and I was just like, no, it's just an affront on all levels. It is that platinum. Is it platinum or silver dunes?
It's platinum. It's platinum dunes.
Platinum dunes, of course, because it has to be the best because it's Michael Bay, right?
Yeah.
What a motherfucker who came in, like, got his hands on some of the best horror movies.
Got his hands on all of them, man. Aside from Halloween, it was all of them.
Yeah, and then, you know, you got to know that Michael Bay wasn't surrounding himself with horror fans. He was surrounding himself with little Michael Bay acolytes, you know? So they're all like little fucking action morons, because that's all they gave us was action moron nonsense. And no more explicit than in The Hitcher, where it's, you know, of course, it's the fucking shaggy-headed, like, surfer dude-looking guy and his, like, model stepped off the fucking runway girlfriend, like, you know, and look, and it's got Sean Bean. I'm not slagging off Sean Bean.
He's the best part of the movie.
He's doing what he can, but, you know, come on. He's freighted with so much. And, I read, like, they consulted Eric Red on this script. It's like, what did he do? What did he tell them? Stop. Like, that's the only consultation I can imagine him saying.
Stop what you're doing. This is all wrong.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is bad.
Absolutely. Don't do it. Pay me.
He's Peter Nichols in Ghostbusters 2, just walk around. Everything you're doing is wrong.
I have to say, I never watched the remake because why? That was my first thought. It's like, why? The original Hitcher, for my money, is pretty damn near perfect.
Yeah.
And on top
100% agreed.
And you have two leads that are perfect in their roles, because like that's the thing. It's always and of course we could just gush on and on about Rutger Hauer because come on, he's Rutger Hauer. But C. Thomas Howell, I love so much. I've always felt like he's kind of underrated as an actor in general. Like, I feel like people don't give him enough kudos that they should, but he's so likable here. You do root for him, and he's not too boyish. He's just like that right amount of just seeing somebody go from just sort of being like, you know, likable and sort of a little naive, or a lot naive, to basically what happens when you take a good sort of sheltered human being and traumatize them and terrorize them straight on, like nonstop. And he pulls all of that off so well. So I was like, why would I want to watch the remake? And knowing that Michael Bay swiffered his taint
is grundless.
I mean, fuck him. Like, I can't stand
the Texas Chainsaw remake's not bad though. That is that's the only one.
They hired one good filmmaker in that entire group, and that was Marcus Nispel,
right?
Who tried mightily against the tides of the fucking Platinum Dunes to give them a horror movie when they kept pushing action.
Also, Father Malone, you know, the kind of people that they hired, including Marcus Nispel, were a bunch of music video directors.
Of course they were.
And which, again, not a problem with that.
There is a problem with it. You know why? Because no.
Fincher was a music video director, though.
Dude, Russell Mulcahy is a fucking fantastic filmmaker. He was a video director. I don't have a problem with video directors.
Yeah.
What they hired was a bunch of visual stylists who weren't going to have any input on the script whatsoever. You know what? Steven Spielberg is a visual stylist, and he knows what a fucking story is too. You know, like. So
yeah, that's fair.
Like these were a bunch of I'm not taking it out on the filmmakers. They did their job, but they needed people who like would shepherd a story into something palatable and maybe enjoyable instead of just give me your fucking money, kid, and thanks for the IP.
But in this version of the Hitcher, the female character is the one who survives.
Whoa, they really switched it up, man.
Yeah. So
they really deconstructed this and like took it apart. Like, wow.
Yeah. In the remake, Heather, the female character is the one who is in the cab with the John Ryder character during the drawn and quartering scene, and it's her boyfriend that's tied up. Right.
Oh God. I do have a good question. Because I have a theory with music, because music video history is a passion of mine. It's something I've written about, and I'm actually working on a project about it. And I feel like there is a difference between people that made music videos in the early, especially like the real pioneering days of it, ranging from like the late 60s to about probably like mid to late 80s, versus sort of the more modern era. Because I feel like music videos, like a lot of the approach to them early on was almost more like sort of a Wild West. It's almost like when you see like silent cinema and there's all kinds of visual exploring and experimenting, because it's a new format.
Those video filmmakers were like they were just guys out of film school, and they're like, here's some money, go fucking give us your best. Like that early era of music video filmmakers, like, with Russell Mulcahy, he was doing all the Duran Duran ones, which were fucking cinematic and beautiful. Mm-hmm. But like, you had other people like Tim Pope over there doing all the Cure stuff, which could be as cinematic as anything like Fincher would end up doing, but like could also be as fun and loose and as experimental. Like, I'm just going to shoot trains. Here's the video. It's nothing but trains.
Right. Well, and you'd also see filmmaker, of course, like obviously a huge favorite of mine is Steven Sadian, who made Dr. Caligari and Cafe Flesh. But that's the thing. Steven also was a music video pioneer. I mean, him and Francis Celia made the Mexican radio for Wall of Voodoo. Steven later on would solo their video.
I love that video.
I know. And he also would later on direct their video for Do It Again, among others. And I just feel like that breed, of course, you have people like The Residents and, like somebody like Graham Whiffler, who worked a lot with The Residents, that would go on to write Sonny Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe, did he direct Sonny Boy? Or did he just write that one? I think he just wrote it. But so you had these really fascinating kind of motley crew of people. But by the time it's like anything new that's exciting, it becomes, as soon as it becomes super commercialized and codified and commodified, it gets kind of stale. And I feel like and there's exceptions and everything, but a lot of the newer music videos, like of that era of, say, the Hitcher remake, I mean, music videos were basically car commercials as far as how they were approached.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
100%.
Well, and I mean, Dave Meyers, the guy who worked on the remake, has been working in music videos since '97 and still works in them today. So at least
he was part of Michael Bay's little production company there. You know what I mean?
Platinum Dunes, baby.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good for all of you. I'd like to double back into something good. You brought up, Heather. C. Thomas Howell.
Oh,
This is a fucking fantastic performance. Like, this is like the minor character from E.T. This is Ponyboy Curtis from the goddamned Outsiders.
This is Soul Man's own C. Thomas Howell.
Okay, listen, they all can't be wonderful. They all can't be good, man.
C. Thomas Howell is an American actor and director. He has starred in the films. Wikipedia has it first, ladies and gentlemen, Soul Man.
Oh, come on.
Why?
I'm not-
Why though? Why
The
have
man-
that be first of all things?
Of all the things, like when this performance exists, are you kidding me?
The Hitcher
He's
is the
so
second movie that's mentioned. So
it should be first, and like Pony Boy, the Outsider should be second. Because he's
Yes.
fucking awesome in that too, man.
Yeah, that's whatever, Wiki. But no, I love C. Thomas Howell. Everybody should love him. I honestly, they should have mentioned him being on that VH1 reality show about celebrities doing magic professionally before
magic?
they'd mention he learned magic. And that should be mentioned before fucking Soul Man. Are you kidding me?
anything before Soul Man, and I've never even seen Soul Man, and I know what it is, and I know I don't want to watch it.
No, I've never seen it, but I still to this day can remember seeing the trailer as a child, and even as a little kid, I was like, "Oof."
Guess who's coming
I've
to
seen
college
Soul
is
Man. I've seen Soul Man.
Guess who's coming to college is
cable a lot.
the worst tagline for a movie, just beyond offensive.
Yeah, well, that's like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. That's
right. Yeah, but Guess Who's Coming to
fucking
College?
horrible, and it's a terrible movie, and everyone should be embarrassed. Everyone should be embarrassed.
But I'm sure C. Thomas Howell's good in it, right?
He is.
He's right.
It's a light comedy, and it's playing on things, but it's not. Do not watch the movie. It's really bad.
John Ryder comes in and just shoots his character in the head and runs off.
What an ending!
Right?
Nobody expected that.
But secret prequel to this Hitcher is actually just Soul Man.
In this movie, there's a scene where Jim Halsey has reached his limit and contemplates suicide.
Yeah,
and C. Thomas Howell not only sells that, but he makes at least me. I was like, you're right. Like you might as well give that a go. I don't know. His performance is so layered, and it goes from such extremes. Like what you're talking about, Chris. Like, is this just like a young man comes of age? If it is, C. Thomas Howell sells that. That innocent kid who's like, my mom told me never to do this at the beginning is in no way the kid leaning on the fucking truck at the end holding the shotgun, or and I think C. Thomas Howell is perfect in the movie. Like everyone in this cast is great. Actually, there's not one bad performance.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. C. Thomas Howell screaming at the top of his lungs is, and I'm not sure there are a few actors that could do it better. Like he spends half this movie screaming.
Yeah,
like he's a true scream queen in this movie.
And he screams on like every level. His scream after the initial encounter when he kicks Ryder out of the car, the "fuck you, buddy," like that sort of adrenalized sort of realization that he's alive. Like
he's great. He's amazing. He's fantastic. And they picked the right person as the lead because they had mentioned a couple other actors, Matt Modine. Could have been okay. Yeah. Emilio Estevez.
They could all sell the sort of journey, but who they are at the beginning would be way too wizened. You look at Matthew Modine and there's no way that's a kid coming from Chicago.
No.
You know what I mean? Like C. Thomas Howell is as innocent as he comes at the beginning of this flick.
But how would it have worked if it had been Tom Cruise? That's the question.
Poorly.
Yeah. Real poorly.
And I'm a fan of that guy. I think he's a good actor, but not in this role. It needed C. Thomas Howell or his equivalent. That it's funny because the dance here that he does this from this sort of innocent character to the sort of mature, if you will. You can find actors who can pull off innocent. You can pull off and actors who can pull off sort of seasoned and hardened, but it's hard to find ones that could navigate both, particularly not in the same film. So I don't know. I marvel at his performance every time I see it.
It's so good. And that scene you're talking about taps into, I don't know if you guys, I imagine everybody has this fear. It's like, what if you're put in this really extreme situation and you've lost your wallet, you have no ID on you, you have no phone, you don't have a car, you are literally on your own and on the run, and you have nobody to go to, you don't have any money, you're just put in the worst kind of hand-to-mouth situation, hard Scrabble horror, totally hard Scrabble horror. And that just the to me, oh God, to me, that's almost as scary as being chased directly when you're directly confronted with John Ryder is that.
The movie ratchets it up on every level, right? Because it takes every possibility of survival or rescue away. And in the fears that it taps into, this movie is an amalgam of all of my fears. If this movie had spiders in it, it would be the perfect amalgam of all my fears.
Rutger Hauer opens opens his mouth and a giant spider just crawls out. I'm out of here. I'm done. Jim Halsey just pulls the gun out. All right, I'll shoot myself. How's that? I'll kill myself for you. All right.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted.
That would be the end of the Hitcher. That'd be the opening scene. Like, right there, gets in. And
he has a spider for a tongue, just like a spider.
And you know
tongue.
what? And C. Thomas Howell picks him up for, as I've said before, I drive a lot, right? He picks him up for like the best reason and the worst reason, which is he's tired and he needs somebody in the car. Then he knows he's going to crash, right? So like that, like the sort of isolation in like, you know, the middle of nowhere in America is like a definite fear of mine, and I experience it quite a bit.
What gives it away? The green hair?
Why do you wear a hat while you're in most of the country? But like, so like that fear this sort of plays on, and then what you talked about, Heather, the sort of like the stripping away of any of his identity, like and to me, even more than that, I am terrified of the police. It's the like I don't like the notion of anyone telling me I have to go do what they want me to do. And like, I have to go do it. You have to do it with the police. And he gets all of the police in this one. He gets all of the ones that I would end up having to tangle with. Like that one guy, Henry Darrow is the actor's name. When they pull Jim Halsey off the bus, and he's like, "Oh, you spit on my wrist, like wipe it off." It's this clear thing, like to get him to grab the hand, so he's justified in shooting and killing him. Like that level of police, like frightens me. Like I wouldn't, like you can't believe. And let me digress one second. Henry Darrow, that guy who is like the meanest son of a bitch you've ever seen in this flick, right? I just happened to a week ago watch a TV movie from 1980 about the Attica prison riot, and he plays Tom Wicker, the New York Post journalist in it, like a more erudite, like thoughtful guy you could not ask for. So like when I saw him in this, I'm like, wait, that's that guy? I thought it was just some like random no-name redneck guy. I thought it was that guy. So good on you, Henry Darrow.
And my favorite thing about that scene is when Jennifer Jason Leigh gets off the bus, she goes, "I see what you're trying to do," as if they do it all the time.
Right.
Which is even more horrifying. Like,
right.
These fuckers are just doing it all. You spit on my wrist.
Yeah. Wipe it off.
Wipe it off, baby.
No, thank you, officer.
Please don't make me do that. Please don't make me do that. Honestly, the thing that it taps into for me is like something that I kind of felt as a kid growing up with the internet as I did somehow. I was always worried you'd go to the wrong website and then like people would come to your house and like kill you. And this is kind of that same idea where it's like you're just minding your business and then all of a sudden you wandered into the wrong part of town and bad things are happening. Like he's just minding his business and like you said, Father Malone, he just picks somebody up. Like all the best intentions in mind.
Right. And you can tell us somebody don't do that, but like, you know.
Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker?
I have never picked up a hitchhiker.
Would you?
Nor would I.
No. Why would you after watching this movie?
Hell no.
Yeah. This is like this is like Jaws for swimming. This is like 100%. This is for hitchhikers, man. Yeah.
Also, let's be honest. In real life, like John Ryder is not going to look like Rutger Hauer.
It's gonna look like Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah. The real Henry Lee Lucas, not like Michael Rooker.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He'll look like the guy who drank a shitload of Sonic milkshakes and ate a shitload of cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what he's gonna look like. Yeah. He's not gonna look like old Father Malone over here, another traveler of the road.
Funny? Like I'm talking about like my one job, my like sort of my main job, like makes me travel a lot through the country, like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of miles. But like my off-time job is like I drive ride share, so I'm constantly letting people in my car. Like it only occurred to me right now. Like I kind of am picking up hitchhikers all the time.
Oh gosh, now I'm scared.
Well, isn't there that Dave Franco movie that's essentially like the reverse of the Hitcher? Or who's it? Dave Franco? It's the dude from Stranger Things, where people are like getting into his car and he's like taking them around as he murders people.
Oh, I don't know this movie.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but it has Joe Keery, the kid who plays Steve in Stranger Things. And I think he's like, I think it's like the Hitcher, but like you're getting into his car because it's like a Uber thing.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
Yeah,
I actually, there's a film called Graveyard Shift from the 80s about a vampire taxi driver.
I love that movie.
I love that
Sounds
movie
amazing.
too. No, it's really, really very stylish and has the main female character actually find out she's terminal.
That came out in 87 too, didn't it? That was like a bumper year for vampire flicks.
Yes. I'm so glad you've seen that. I love that movie. Yeah. I digress. But I don't know about this non-Dave Franco movie, but
no, it's called Spree, actually.
Spree.
And it's he's a rideshare driver who, in an attempt to become viral, live streams himself murdering passengers.
That'll do
Which
it.
is like if you're making the
you could
Hitcher
live
today.
stream yourself doing anything if you're murdering people,
That's fair. Also fair.
Can I take a swipe at that remake again? The opening of the movie, they give a statistic, and it says there are 40,000 people murdered, killed on the highways of the system, according to the American Census Bureau of Highway Safety, right? As if they're dramatizing what those 40,000 murders look like, whereas mainly it's just people falling asleep and crashing their fucking car into a bus of other people. That's the 40,000. Anyway, I'm sorry. Just that they threw that at the outset of their film as if that's gonna this is based on a true story. They needed to say this is based on a true story. Anyway. Sorry.
Actually, on a happier note, have you guys? I imagine you guys have. Have you seen China Lake, the short that was basically the seed of the Hitcher that Robert Harmon made? It's on YouTube.
When I was living in Los Angeles, I was a projectionist, so I had a lot of projectionist friends, and I was lucky enough to go to someone's house who had a copy of the China Lake murders, I remember getting a call and he said, "Hey, you're going to want to see this movie, China Lake Murders." And I said, "Well, what the fuck is that?" And he was like, "It's the guy who did the Hitcher." I was like, "Yeah, I'll be right there." Yes, please.
Man, to quote Frank Booth, "God damn, you were one suave fuck." That is fancy.
I just got lucky, you know.
Did you guys all wear matching fezzes when you have your projectionist?
No, but we fucking should have, you know, we should have been showing some solidarity. But the problem is the projectionist at that point was a group of individuals who were only doing it because recently the projectionist union had been busted. So we were all scabs. So the idea of matching jackets was probably in poor taste.
That's fair. Yeah, Chris, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's perfect like the Hitcher, but it's an interesting short, and you get Charles Napier, who I adore. I fucking love me some Charles Napier.
Herbert. You see him on Star Trek?
I heard he likes to be butterflied and hung off of a jail cell.
Oh, that scene always makes me sad because I'm like, I love Charles Napier. I prefer to think of him as Harry Sledge from Russ Meyer's Super Vixens.
Or what's his character's name in I was Calling All Cars, Citizens Band. Have you guys seen that one? The Jonathan Demme film? Yeah. He plays like a suave trucker who fucks a bunch of women. I think, right? Am I right, Father Malone? Kind of. He has 2 or 3 women.
No, absolutely. He's good. And I'll always think Charles Napier is from the Blues Brothers.
Naturally, right?
Yeah, he's so good in that.
Talk about a movie I haven't seen in a very long time.
You should fix that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
let's watch it right now.
I'm too busy watching. I'm too busy watching The Hitcher 2. John Ryder rides again.
No.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention it. I watched the preview for it. I'm not going to watch it, though. I'm assuming Father Malone did.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
I think I saw it on the USA Network one evening while I was in a hotel room somewhere. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I got excited just for 2 seconds because it was Jake Busey, and I was like, he's crazy, so this might be good, but it is in no way good. And it is nothing to do with The Hitcher. I don't even know if it was written as a sequel to it. It just seems like a movie, and they had the title, so they slapped it on. You know, it's like Meatballs 2 or whatever.
Right. And the only thing about that movie that really matters is Jim Halsey dies.
Yeah,
which is because of course. Yeah, because of course.
But who cares? It's
right. Who cares about Jim Halsey as a character anyways after the first movie?
And by the way, I love the absolute simplicity of the script that we got, where Jim Halsey is just a kid from Chicago who wants to go to California and live his life. And here's his means to do it. this is that right. It's a genuine motivation. We don't get much backstory or any really on either of these characters, but like that's a solid thing. In the remake, they're like going to visit some friends for like a party and a weekend. Fuck you guys. Fuck that remake from the top down. Even Sean Bean, fuck you for taking it.
I mean, Sean Bean tried. I don't know. Let me put it this way. Sean Bean is very much in the same vein as Rutger Hauer as an actor, right?
100%. If he wasn't in the movie, I would not have watched one frame.
Right. I agree with you. I'm 100% agree with it. And frankly, you know, when you talk about this movie, if this movie didn't have Rutger Hauer in it, would it have been as good?
No.
Right. I don't know.
It's a great script. And it was still going to be a really good movie, but it's a fucking great movie because Rutger Hauer is the villain.
Well, I mean, because think about it, that's what makes true masterpieces is when every single element converges. Because I mean, everybody's seen films where you're like, wow, I mean, this is the editing's good, directing's solid, great soundtrack, you know, story's good. But if you have lesser actors in it, it can kind of, it could definitely make a movie a lesser thing. Where this film, it's just like everything, even the soundtrack, which I think is so understated but so perfect.
Yes,
is just solid. Like I don't
Mark Isham.
I was gonna say Isham, so I'm glad I. But now he's so great. The cinematography too. I have to like geek out just for a minute on the cinematography because
please do, because it's gorgeous.
And I made sure to write down the cinematographer's name, John Seale, who also did Fury Road, which is a gorgeous.
That is gorgeous.
He's an Oscar-winning cinematographer for English Patient, a great Ray Fiennes movie. Hey,
I love Ray Fiennes.
Like the cinematography in this movie is gorgeous. Robert Harmon is like a photographer, so you knew it was gonna like he was. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but obviously he took the care to make this look like a movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
It is a beautiful movie, and the skill of the cinematographer is, I think, best exemplified. The movie starts at night, and we get twilight to dawn, like basically in real time.
Yeah,
and the subtle gradations of the light as we get there, and the little tricks of the light, like just for reveals, and it's really masterful. Like, I can't believe people, like, if you go back and read some of the reviews of this movie at the time, they just dismissed it outright, like as a potboiler or like just another slasher movie or any of the reasons I named earlier for not liking it. But like, look at the movie. It's beautiful. I read a review where people complained about the cinematography in this movie, saying it was murky and brown. Like I kept waiting for somebody to turn on a light. Like people are out of their goddamn
Did they even
mind.
See the scene in the hotel room with the red and blue lights on Jim Halsey's face? Like, do they give a shit? Do people actively watch movies? No.
Well,
but the critics, I guess, should be the ones who should be. I don't know. Well, I don't understand.
Yeah, this isn't a bunch of fucking internet nerds like slagging this movie on. These are like movie critics. This is their job, you know?
Well, I mean, it's the problem is I think at least half of people who are critics of everything, I always kind of question, like, do you really love cinema? Do you truly love cinema? The other thing, and especially in that period of time, is if something was a horror movie, it was treated like it was just slightly above pornography.
Oh, Siskel and Ebert fucking treated it worse than pornography.
Please read it.
Listen, I consider myself like I try to be a positive person, but if you ever want to see me just full on Yosemite Sam, like I just turn into a whirling,
I do.
A tornado of anger, profanity is the Siskel and Ebert review of Liquid Sky, the Slava Zuckerman film, which is a great film. Because you want to talk about just completely losing the plot. Oh my God. That's the thing. When those guys got it wrong, they got it so like wrong to a point of obscenity. It's not even just a matter of like, okay, it wasn't to your flavor. Everybody's different. Like, that's the thing. I'm not a gatekeeper, you know, not everything's going to be for everybody, and nor should it be. But when you can't even objectively be like, you know what, this film was too bloody or violent for me, but the cinematography was great, or that, you know, you can still find something positive.
Right.
I'll give you some respect. But when you're just full on shitting on something that clearly has some merit, into it.
And every movie does. If your review is just fuck this movie. Look, if a movie is actually like reprehensible, I get it. But like, does anyone reviewing this movie think that they intended harm on their audience, or that they were so disrespectful of the audience? Let me read what Roger Ebert said here. He said, "I could see that the film was meant as an allegory, not a documentary. But on its own terms, this movie is diseased and corrupt. I would have admired it more if it had found the courage to acknowledge the real relationship it was portraying between Howell and Rutger. But no, it prefers to disguise itself as a violent thriller. And on that level, it is reprehensible."
This is the guy who wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, which I love. Okay,
sure, but that's not the issue. It's more of like, what leg are you standing on, bro? Like, I don't understand. Like, you're making yourself sound like less of a critic and more of an idiot by saying stuff like that.
No, agreed. It's
not his job to comment on social commentary that the movie may or may not be presenting. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's my point. Like what I adore about the film is that you can give it any meaning you want. You can make that struggle about anything. It's like when we talked about Fantastic Planet, that revolution could be applied to any revolution. And in this case, the struggle between these two characters can literally be anything you want it to be. He decided it was about their suppressed lust for one another, and the movie didn't acknowledge his interpretation of the movie. So it is reprehensible. Like, you think you're being like, you think you're being sensitive and like, intellectual about this and like condemning it, but like you're condemning the wrong thing because
he put his hand on his leg. That's why.
Yeah.
Right. And he does that playing on gay panic, right? Like John Ryder knows this guy's going to like fuck off if he thinks we're gay, and he does.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like approaching anything artistic like that is so it's so reductive, and it's like it's stupidly naive. It's for an artist does not owe every single explanation to you. The thing the artist owes is to be truthful and pure to their vision as much as they can in this capitalist society. Tell
her. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. The artist doesn't owe you to give you a morality play. They don't owe you that. They don't owe, I'm sorry. It's just so fucking childish. It ain't now. See, I'm slightly Yosemite Sammy, not full on, but it's offensive to me. It's offensive to me to have that attitude because it's, it's so, what do you want? Just go watch Disney. If that's your attitude, don't go watch real cinema. Go watch a fucking kids movie. Like real horror in real life doesn't have explanations a lot of times. A life is full of things that happen that we can't explain that suck. We've all, from major to minor, that's reality. And art is a way for us to sometimes deal with that. You can watch a movie like this that is so beautifully made. And yes, it's scary and it's intense and it's violent. Welcome to planet Earth. The planet is full of violence.
I agree.
To quote Horderowski, who I love with all of my heart and soul, I like violence. I love violence. And he's so right, though, because he talks about just people that act like that are weak and they're blind because they're like the whole world. Like, turn on the fucking news.
Well, and that's what I always say. Like, people are always like, I can't watch horror movies because they scare me and they're so scary. It's like you're sitting in front of your TV watching something. Like, you leave your house on a daily basis and get in a car. Like, do you know how dangerous that is? You're sitting in an engine connected to some metal, and if another metal object hits you, you're fucked. A lot of us are. A lot of us are fucked by these assholes with their giant pickup trucks, like where I live.
That's why they don't watch horror movies, because that concept never enters their mind.
I know.
They can't let it, because then everything
it would be way worse.
Crumble.
Yeah, I know.
And they don't understand us because they think that we're dwelling on it as opposed to experiencing it as it should be, which is, as an inevitable conclusion.
Yeah. Well, and that again, you could look at this movie as just the struggle of life and death, right? Again, just another way. The whole thing with the pennies is pretty on the nose, as they would say. It's on the eyes, might say.
Oh, or the tongue.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's where I'd like to be with nobody. Never mind.
No. I think we were all thinking it, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Rutger Hauer's a good-looking dude. He was a good-looking dude all the way.
There's no point where he became unattractive.
No. he grew into being what I like to call an HOM, which is a hot old man. He was totally a home.
Yeah. And C. Thomas Howell too.
Totally tappable.
He looks good. Yeah.
I think he looks better now.
Like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's that unfair trick of men getting better. Like that kid was a good looking kid, and now he gets to be a mature and distinguished looking man. Fuck you.
just like Kyle MacLachlan. Same like Kyle MacLachlan. Like holy shit. Like Kyle MacLachlan, good looking guy, and now it's
fucking A, man.
Yeah. Jennifer Jason Leigh too, for that matter.
Jennifer Jason Leigh has always looked awesome.
Yeah.
I love her.
I think she might actually be a vampire.
Yeah.
Damn
she
girl.
may be.
Like,
and let's all join her tribe or whatever the fuck it is, because it's going to be interesting and thoughtful.
That's fair.
Independently produced.
This is true. this is straight up true. Oh goodness.
So is this the Rutger Hauer performance then? We talked about it a lot this month, but I think I would put out that this is better than Blade Runner.
You get more of him certainly in this.
I think it's just a more interesting performance because Blade Runner is nuanced, but I think that this role could have become a lot less interesting a lot quicker than the role in Blade Runner. Does that make sense? Like the role in Blade Runner is like a one-of-a-kind role, one-of-a-kind opportunity. This could have been, for all intents and purposes, just a fucking car movie with a serial killer. But it's not, because it's Rutger Hauer. And therefore, I would contend it's a much more important performance in the long run, because people have aped this performance since. Like,
yes.
Right?
Yes, I think that. And you know what? Like the performance in Blade Runner, I love that performance. I'm not taking anything away from it, but that movie was going to function whether or not Rutger Hauer was in it.
Right.
That could have been performed in many ways, and it might have been lesser or worse or better, but you could not have this movie be what it is without him. And that's because of his performance. So I say, you're right, Chris. I think this is a better hallmark. If somebody said you got to watch one Rutger Hauer movie, I would say this one.
Agreed. Now I'm trying to think. I mean, and there's so many great. I mean, the man had a long, really amazingly rich and kind of varied career. And he's had some performances that are very close to this. But man, I'm with you. If somebody wants the gateway drug to the world of Rutger Hauer, this is the drug. This is the ticket.
Did you guys watch Nighthawks?
I've never seen it.
Oh, you got to watch Nighthawks if you want to see Rutger Hauer. He's so quiet in it. He's so uncharismatic, Rutger Hauer, but it's still a great performance. Huh. He's real scary in that one.
Huh. We should watch that Nostradamus movie that he's in, Father Malone.
Oh yeah, we should.
the Roger Christian Nostradamus film.
Yeah, why haven't
we? With Checky Cario as Nostradamus?
Oh shit! Oh my god!
Why haven't we?
You guys want to do that as an episode? Checky Cario.
Oh my god! Well, it's because a few months ago I was on Shoot the Piano Player and we talked about Lemore Brock, Zulawski, and that's Checky
Cario.
And he's so good in it. Oh,
I think the only if I'm thinking of American actors that I could compare their career to for Rutger Hauer with the amount of varied weird things. I think a close American actor is Lance Henriksen.
I legit was thinking Lance Henriksen too.
Right?
Legit.
Right. Weirdly, I don't know what it is.
Okay, maybe Lance Henriksen could have been the same in The Hitcher.
What about Lance Henriksen in Blade Runner?
Yes, also there.
Fuck,
I would be so good. Could somebody deep fake that? If anyone's listening and they have that capability,
that would be something else, wouldn't it?
Please put Lance Henriksen in Blade Runner because I really want to see that now.
Oh my god! Also, would totally tap.
Yo, talk about another guy that's gotten better.
You and me both.
Yeah,
and Lance Henriksen, serial hater of puppets.
That's true. That fucking puppet.
I hate those puppets, man. Whatever, Lance. Sure.
Chris has an excellent interview with Mr. Henriksen,
where he just goes on and on about how much he hates that fucking.
He hated the goddamn puppet.
The Crypt Keeper puppet. He just hated it.
I am so jealous. But
I don't get it, man. It wasn't funny, and I'm
upset, and this thing upsets me.
legit on my bucket list is I would love to have a beer with Lance Henriksen and just hear him talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Got that
would be-
voice.
oh my God, just anything. Also, I mean, his performance, it's a cheesy movie, but that movie Stone Cold.
Of all the people I have ever talked, I think Lance Henriksen is probably one of my favorites because it's just like he's in everything. I would have loved to have talked to Rutger Hauer for fuck's sake. Like Jesus Christ, imagine the stories he could have told.
Yeah, but that movie, that Brian Bosworth movie, Stone Cold. Have you guys seen that?
I've never seen.
Lance Henriksen's great in that.
Oh my God, Chris, oh my God, you of all people need to see Stone Cold.
We should watch that movie and review it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, because Lance Henriksen, like some of the way he delivers some of the dialogue is like, there's one line about like, this is either going to be the biggest pork chop I ever eat or my bulldozer. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? But the way he does it, you're like, shit, yeah, he's the man. Also, Brian Bosworth has a pet. What was that? Was it like a pet iguana? Or
I think it's an iguana.
It's an iguana.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
And
the Boss baby.
Did you ever see? There's a biker movie with Charlie Sheen and Michael Madsen together.
What?
If we watch the Stone Cold movie, we should pair it with this because
what's it called?
I don't
Wild
know.
Men on Wheels.
Bad boys.
Bad boys.
Oh my God! You listen. You
Batter boys.
You are unprepared for the delight of this biker movie. I'm telling you.
When is it from? Like the 80s?
Like early 90s, probably.
I'm looking here. Terminal Velocity?
No, it's a fucking parachute movie.
What?
The parachute. There was a
Is it Christy
parachute
Swanson?
movies there for a while.
Is Christy Swanson in that one?
In Terminal Velocity?
Yeah.
She was in one of them. Maybe that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
There were a couple. They're like Wesley Snipes was jumping out of planes. Charlie Sheen was jumping out of planes. There were Navy SEALs falling out of the sky. I don't know.
Who else is in it?
Michael Madsen?
Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen. That should be
Who's
easy.
amazing. I love Michael Madsen.
I'm looking here.
I once shared a lucky strike with Mr. Madsen.
What?
Yes.
Oh man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so
Someone
jealous.
search Michael Madsen Charlie Sheen biker movie on Google. So it's not just you and I looking for it. Beyond the Law.
That's it.
That's a Seagal movie title,
That is-
baby. That's a Seagal movie title all the way. Wow. Beyond the Law.
It is joyous.
Hey, you know why what's weird? It's not showing up on it doesn't show up on Charlie Sheen's filmography. Oh, because it's a TV movie.
TV movie.
Yeah.
Was it made for HBO? I think this was a movie and then it just got dumped to cable, is what I think happened.
Is that what happened to The Hitcher? Or is The Hitcher just
No, I saw The
financed
Hitcher
by
in the theater.
HBO?
Yeah, it was HBO had partnered up with Canon Films at the time that they were going to release the next spate of their films, like 8 movies or something like that. And I think contractually they had to release the that spate of films in theaters. So, and thank God they did because
But yeah, it's called Beyond the Law from 1993.
That's that title. Does it have a theme song with the title in it?
Oh, I don't remember that.
But,
I'm definitely obviously going to watch it moments after we wrap up here, but
and it has Linda Fiorentino in it.
Oh, doesn't
wow.
it? She's got a kid and everything. Oh, and Charlie Sheen, like there's this, it's unbearable, this scene where he's trying to be charming with the kid by like making breakfast and doing it this French accent. Oh, it goes on and on. It's
Charlie Sheen being charismatic. I'd like to see that.
It is the literal worst.
Yeah. There was a point in time where he could. I mean, I'm not a fan of the movie, but his tiny role in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
What Promise, right? Who's that kid?
Yeah, he's so great in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's okay in Hot Shots.
He's good in Platoon. Look, Charlie Sheen's a good actor. You know what I mean? He just became Charlie Sheen and decided that's what he's going to do for the rest of his life.
He is Charlie Sheen, which is the most complimentary thing you can say.
Right.
There's
I'm
only
sure
one
he would
Charlie
appreciate
Sheen.
it.
Yeah.
God bless.
I would watch Stone Cold. It doesn't have Stone Cold in it, which seems like a disappointment. But that's fine. You're going to name the movie Stone Cold and not put me in it. I mean, that seems like a missed opportunity to me if you ask. If you're asking the wrestling fan in the room.
I lose my shit every single time you do a Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation, Chris.
Let's do this. The Hitcher, but with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And instead of guns, it's only wrestling moves.
If he's Jim Halsey.
Oh, who would be playing?
Ooh.
Who would be playing?
Well,
John Ryder.
a winnowy young lady, obviously.
Right. Oh, Becky Lynch.
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza would be great.
But she's not a wrestler. We need a wrestler.
She doesn't need to be a wrestler. Oh, no.
No, China.
China.
I have a Davey Boy Smith.
Yeah, look at that. British Bulldog.
British Bulldogs. I saw them wrestle once back in the day back in the Boston Garden. Yeah, when I used to
So if Stone Cold was Jim Halsey, would you have a female character? Is that the way you would remake the Hitcher? Is have it be a female John Ryder?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make him a fucking mountain of a man, then yeah, I would. You know. You're gonna make somebody because obviously we've slipped the conceit of the movie, which is this innocent character going. You're gonna go with a fucking grizzled old man.
What if he's like a trucker?
Yeah, and then he should be then it should be youth killing the old. Then it shouldn't be this youth fighting against the for.
What if it's you think that she is the villain until there's this twist halfway. There's a double turn halfway through the movie, and you think that she's the villain and he's the hero, and then halfway through the movie she finds out that it's actually the other way around.
You just drop kicked this movie into the next stratosphere.
I was going to say, well, and now I'm torn on my castings. I was going to say Shayna Blazer.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty good too.
She can be really terrifying. I love her.
Yeah, any intimidating female actor or wrestler, please.
Gosh, I wish Susan Tyrrell was still with us.
Linda Hamilton. What's she up to?
What is she up to? Counting her Terminator money, her Dark Fate money.
She's like, 1 million.
That's probably it for Dark Fate. 1 million. Anything else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope. God. Yeah, man. I hope we're past things from the 80s being, speaking of remakes, I hope we're past things from the 80s being remade at this point. I hope we're past,
and we're not at all past this, but like people just snatching an IP and going, people know this, do it. And there's no thought or love in any way. Like I love some of my favorite movies are remakes. Like I got no problem with a remake. I encourage it. I want to see another version of this thing. It could potentially be better, but like not when it's this, not when, nobody gives a shit and they're just assigned the movie, it seems.
Well, it's workman like.
Yeah. Like, and to remake this movie and not get it on its most fundamental level, that it works as this like clash of elements and nothing else. Like,
and we didn't even talk about the car play in this movie, which is insanely well shot and well thought out and looks really good for a movie that, again, it's not a car crash movie. This is not, you're not going into this movie expecting a demolition derby. It's not Fast and the Furious or Gone in 60 Seconds. And yet the car stuff, I think the car stuff's really well done.
I like a lot of the car stuff. I think there came a moment in the sort of the getaway moment of the movie when the two cop cars chasing them and they're each firing shotguns and they're like, they've blown the door off of the car and no one has fired at the tires, that I was like, this is okay.
That's the one. Yeah,
let's move on now.
That scene is strange because all of a sudden the radios don't work and it's like this is a little contrived.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so Rutger Hauer can shoot a helicopter out of the air.
Right. And it
which totally works.
So cool.
Yeah. But like I didn't need the cops being dummies to get to that point.
No.
Like the cops are insanely dumb in this movie.
They are. And I want to see cars flip through the air and crash. And Robert Harmon shoots them spectacularly. Yeah. It looks gorgeous. But like, I don't know that we needed it at that point in the movie, Like you needed to establish that the police are really looking. This is a big deal. What's going on now in the desert, right?
Right.
Like he's wiped out entire police stations. Like now this has to end. So I know we need to do that and we need to sort of take care of it and get rid of it in an efficient manner. But like, it's a little silly.
It gets a little comic booky. It's a little blown out of proportion.
If you blow the door off of somebody's vehicle, like what's happening now? You know what I mean? Like they shot it off really, but they didn't hit either of them. Nobody shot the tires. Like there are easier ways to knock that car out if they really wanted to, but they needed a sequence. So there it is.
Going back to the whole remake thing, I think the fact that I think you nailed something, Father Malone, when you said IPs, because I think that's also a huge problem is people aren't approaching it being like, hey, I'm a fan of this earlier story, or this earlier film, how is the way we can kind of reinterpret it versus, hey, it's a franchise. Like that's the thing. You're literally treating something creative like it's fast food. It's big filmmaking.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's a good name for a podcast. Filmmaking. Examining sequels. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're 100% right. Like the commodification of filmmaking is why this not sequels, but remakes. Sequels, I think, are their own weird thing, but the remake thing is definitely just like commodification of filmmaking, especially IPs.
Like, thank God John Carpenter said, I want to do the thing, and they let him do it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And David Cronenberg. But I guarantee you that like they wanted it, like they had an idea for it and how to make it better. And they
loved those movies. They loved the movie that they were remaking. John Carpenter liked the original thing from outer space. That's why he remade it. Not because somebody said, hey, John, we have this movie that we want you to make.
My point exactly. It just seems like they're given a list, like, what do we own? And they go down the list and go, oh, I know that. Like, people know that movie, right? Like, let's do that. Like, that's the remake, all the Platinum Dunes movies all feel like that.
Other than Texas Chainsaw. Well, I know you don't like it, but
no, I don't, and because it's a failure of a film for this fucking crew of idiots over at Platinum Dunes. But
it's the closest to being a good movie. You would agree with me on that, though. Of all of them, I mean, it's watchable. It's watchable. But again, I agree. I agree. Like,
it works despite those motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Heather. Like, I think for me, as someone who has grown up in a world where the things that, folks like y'all were seeing when you were my age, you were seeing these movies and I was seeing them being remade as an adult with the rest of us as adults. And now they're remaking stuff from my childhood. It's just weird to me because the things that they pick are never the things that I ever really cared about. But with a lot of y'all's stuff, it's like, how could you not have cared about these things? These were like the things at the time. And that's what's kind of weird. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense.
What 90s property are they going like, well, it's time. Those kids are grown now. They need to see.
Well, and that's like I'm trying to like think because
is it Spice World? Is it
I mean, I guess they remade Point Break, they remade The Lion King, they remade Mortal Kombat.
They remade Point Break?
Yeah. Garbage.
Oh yeah, it was? What? Oh God.
They remade the Mummy.
They did remake them.
But I'm okay. I mean, I didn't see it because it looked shitty. But I mean, at least it's based on something old though. That's not really. I mean, the Mummy. The original Mummy's Boris Karloff from 1931.
Yeah, exactly. They could say they were remaking that.
Yeah,
right. As opposed to the one that
the Brendan Fraser,
the bisexual anthem. Have you not heard about this, Heather? It's like a common joke that like that movie is very popular among people who are bisexual because everybody in the movie is good looking and everybody essentially is.
Well, what about what's his name? Is it Kevin
J. O'Connor? Somebody finds that guy attractive.
I mean, but technically, if somebody finds almost everybody.
That's
know what
fair.
I mean? Like,
but like everybody in that movie is like pretty good looking.
What about the Hitcher?
I think everybody in this movie is pretty good looking too. Other than the cops.
Yeah, I mean the side characters not so much, but I mean your main characters, pretty.
Oh yeah, I mean Rutger Hauer is such a good looking guy.
Oh, like, he is Stone Cold Fox.
Yeah.
Got those eyes, man.
Ooh. It's the eyes. It really is, right? At least in this movie.
The height. That would every movie. Even when he's got the weird replicant eyes, it's still just,
Yeah, I wanted that in this movie.
like he did in Surviving the Game.
Right. Or the best time when the replicant eyes could show up is in a Ernest R. Dickerson film. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Ice-T just brought it out of him.
Yeah.
No, it's weird. It's just the whole nostalgia grab bag. I mean, that's obviously nothing new. There's always that joke that kind of in more modern times, in the 70s, they wanted we have Happy Days. We have the throwback to the 50s. You got Sha Na Na and the 80s. Oh, the hippies, you get all these boomer musicians doing albums that are hitting the charts. The Grateful Dead, the only time they ever hit the charts was in the 80s.
Twilight Zone 1985 is like the nightmare of Father Malone. all the
Never ending.
all the nightmarish.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
Oh, they get into some bullshit over at the Twilight Zone at that time. Like in the later seasons where they didn't have any ideas other than like their lives are tough as people who gave up on their fucking dreams that they keep shoving down our throats.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, like that's what the Hitcher, the new one, became, is just like this soulless piece of shit.
Yeah, here's that thing you remembered. Like it again. And or you know,
attempt to like it again.
Yeah, not and it wasn't, because that wasn't for me, that movie. That was for people your age, you know.
Theoretically, yeah. I think that movie came out in 2007, so I was like perfect age for that.
17. That, right.
Yeah.
So that movie is absolutely for you. It's coming from my generation that grew up watching it. And like
that's what I'm saying. It's like it's weird. Like the things that y'all watched when you were my age were being made for me when I'm the age you saw it. It's fucking weird.
That is trippy.
And they don't, and they're nowhere near as good at all. Like even remotely good.
Chris, when you did this, my head went to a place for like me and Father Malone are like these ageless elder shapeshifters or something.
Yeah,
you guys are like in a lot of ways, like the people that I work with are almost all older than me.
Yeah, which was that, and that's been my entire life, Chris. Like, now they're all dead or uninteresting, so I can only go younger.
But here's the crazy thing. The people that are younger than me, the people that are younger than all of us, are just as interesting, which is weird.
Oh, certainly,
because like people that are older than y'all are not in a lot of ways.
I don't know. I think every generation we all find the interesting people, you know.
The percentage is smaller the higher up you go.
Maybe, or we just become more selective with age, you know.
I don't really, it's funny. I don't really think about age until it's sort of more like in extremities. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's like in their late teens, you know, or something, I'm kind of like, oh wow, you're you're still kind of a kid, you're a kid. Or if somebody's like old as hell. Like,
damn, you old as hell. Heather just walking around the store, young, old as hell.
Damn.
How are you out and about? How are you not dead? Old as hell.
Like I don't even.
How are you not dead?
I think the only time I ever really think of my own age is like when friends or people I've known in the past, when I see something like their little kid is now like in college, or their baby's all of a sudden at school, and it's like, holy shit, okay, I guess I'm Rip Van Winkle, and I close my eyes for a minute, and these like fetuses are now like voting, and
these fetuses can vote.
Yeah. What kind of mad world are we living in?
Why did they let them vote?
The fetus vote is very important.
Yeah, boy, isn't it?
But yeah, age is something, I don't know. It's I don't know. I don't really, I just kind of view people like, are you cool?
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Like I never think about the age of the people I work with, because I'm like, these are just people that like genuinely get it, and like I feel like I kind of get it too, and we all kind of get it at the same time. Like, your age is unimportant. Like
I don't even think about being older than you, Chris, because I'm just like, it's my buddy.
Right. Yeah. Like,
no,
I know that you guys are older than me, but like I've never like I never feel like it when we're in conversation.
For me, it's only when there's no where I realize we don't have a touchstone. Which is only cultural, and it only comes up when
do we not have a touchstone?
Like you would not have watched a television series in the 1980s.
That's fair.
You would not have like been barraged with like the Brady Bunch. Like that's a touchstone that like cuts across my generation.
That's fair. And for me, it's like when I talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you're always like, bleh.
Yeah,
you're like
I read at that point,
and you read the comics too. Like,
yes,
but because you were an adult when it came out,
right? So it has no nostalgia at all for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess I'm in the cusp, because I mean, I was a kid when that came out. Like when I was in my preteens, so I was technically probably the demo, but I only was interested in the second movie because of David Warner. So I'm already kind of on my path, like my Heather path of basically being attracted to. Thank God there was no David Warner lookalikes when I was a teenager, because I would have, there would have been trouble.
How do you know there weren't? You just weren't looking hard enough.
I was, and
I believe that, Father Malone, and I know you do too. I know you were looking just like I was looking,
Chris,
just like Heather was looking. Don't pretend.
All right, we all were, but we weren't doing a good enough job, is my point.
Yeah, apparently.
But right.
Chris, please just promise you don't look at me and Father Malone and go, man, they're old as hell.
No, I look at you guys and I go like, I'm lucky that people that are not my age think that anything I have to say has any importance to anyone about anything. Because like when you're a teenager and you deal with adults, it's always people that are teachers and people in positions of power who are very dismissive of you. Mm-hmm. And then once you get out of college, you realize that like there are other adults older than you who aren't complete scumbag dickweeds, who aren't high on small amounts of power that they get from bossing students around. Yeah. And that's a weird reality for a lot of people to deal with, that we're always at odds with like teachers and other kind of like authoritarian adults, who I was, because I was in a lot of like things that people told you what to do a lot, like marching band or Boy Scouts or bullshit like that. And like a lot of the adults I dealt with were just like miserable sacks of shit for the most part. And a lot of adults are miserable sacks of shit. So
see, I didn't like a lot of kids when I was a kid because I was pretty bullied.
Oh, well, yeah. That too. Yeah. That too. Yeah.
But no, I can understand that. And I'm glad you don't think that myself or Father Malone are miserable dickweeds high on power.
Fuck no. Well,
I'm a little bit.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, you, Father Malone, though.
I don't have a lot of power, but I do abuse.
Yeah, but again, like you're kind of just abusing yourself, really. So
yeah, because ultimately that's the only power I have. So
yeah. Hey, you're not willing to go and harass teenagers driving their drive-away cars in our nation's in the state of Texas's panhandle.
It's so exhausting to contemplate doing that. Like,
can I tell you something though? Like if you could get away with it, like that sounds like,
whoa, here we go.
Right.
Whoa.
It sounds wild though, but like that like whole like traveling the country by hitchhiking thing is wild to me. To do that.
Yes.
Right? Like you thought I was gonna say killing people. Holy shit, dude. No, I'm talking more about like the idea that you could theoretically hitchhike this country.
I've contemplated it. I've not hitchhiking, but like I do have a romantic notion of riding the rails like a hobo with a bindle and a cigar.
I just don't want to get murdered.
Toothpick. Right, but that's what's going to happen.
Right,
so that's why we don't do it. But it is a very alluring notion, just getting out there.
Right, because there are people that pick up hitchhikers. You know what they do to the hitchhikers? They fucking kill them.
That's true, but John Waters just wrote a book a couple years ago where he did this. Like it says his diary. He hitchhiked from Baltimore to.
If you looked like John Waters, nobody's gonna mess with you.
Right, and John Waters is so charming. Like even if they have no idea who he is, he could talk. Look at this charming little old man. Like, what are we gonna do? Listen to his weird for fun
gay story.
He goes to like psychotic biker bars to like, as a lark. Like he could pretty much talk himself out of anything.
Right. But yeah, he also because I read that book. It's a great read because it's John Waters. But I mean, he had it orchestrated in a very kind of like he had backup plans. Most people that are hitchhiking aren't doing it to be romantic at this point in the game. This isn't the 70s.
Let me ask you something. Would you hitchhike? So Father Malone, you live in Las Vegas. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Would you hitchhike to Reno, Nevada?
No.
Would you hitchhike to Henderson?
No.
Would you hitchhike? Would you hitchhike anywhere in the greater Las Vegas metropolitan area?
I don't think so, honestly. No.
Okay, Heather, would you ever contemplate hitchhiking even to the next town over?
No, hell no. Are you kidding? Especially like as men get sexually assaulted too, obviously, but I feel like being a woman by yourself. Yeah, it just feels like
that's like the immediate no-go, right?
It's immediate. Well, also, have you ever seen the movie Hitchhike to Hell?
No.
It's actually one of my favorite movies. It's from the 70s. I think 77. It's a really great lead performance. But don't hitchhike. It's not good.
Yeah, like I don't understand how we were ever as a country at a point where anyone was like hitchhiking is acceptable and an idea that people should be doing. Because it got to the point where it was acceptable where people said don't do it. So something must have happened where people were not wanting to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like getting in a car with a complete stranger on a freeway or a highway seems like the worst idea imaginable.
I mean, I don't even want to ride the bus. Like, I'm not comfortable.
Right? Like, will you even get on public transit in your town?
Yeah,
Probably not.
Not in my town. I mean, I've done public transit, but it's I mean, there was a point, and I think there's always been danger. I mean, actually, a good friend of mine, Jill Nelson, who's an amazing writer, she did a memoir about how when she was, I believe, like 17, her and her best friend hitchhiked from Canada to California.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's gutsy. It's
such a fascinating story. And luckily, nothing like super bad happened to them, but like they almost were inducted into like to a cult. I don't know. I highly recommend.
Nothing super bad. Just
ran into John Goodman from Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah. But
had lunch.
Yeah. I guess like I will say this much. It sounds romantic. You know what I mean? Like just getting in a car and just take me as far as you're going, man. Like that. There is something about that does sound kind of weirdly appealing, but
it would immediately end in murder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's the big takeaway from The Hitcher is like, as fun as this all sounds, just don't do it.
Yeah. If you want to test your will, definitely go for this.
Yeah.
You're going to.
And that's why we, talked about this ad nauseum. Now that's why I feel like this movie is like a coming of age story. Cause like he has to pick him.
Mm-hmm.
He has to pick him up because what are the other options? Go through life, not as an adult.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. This is this particular character's journey, and it's brutal and horrifying and wonderful and fantastic.
And then Jennifer Jason Leigh's just split in half.
That's not great.
Nope.
I'm not a big fan of that.
No, me either. Really, like it's
really troubling.
Split in half, like our hearts.
Yeah.
I respect and love Eric Red as a writer, and this scene obviously needed to be in this movie, but I hate it.
It's
great, but I hate it.
It is the fact that the entire fact of the setup being there is no way to stop it. Essentially, is just it's awful.
Let me okay. There are two things in this movie that bother me. One is the sort of why aren't they shooting the tires sequence. The other is the way they shoot the abduction. They build it for tension where C. Thomas Howell is in the shower and we know Rutger Hauer is in the next room with Jennifer Jason Leigh. We keep intercutting between them. And she's oblivious to his presence. So they set it up so he comes out at the last second. You think he's going to walk in on Rutger Hauer. He's just obviously absconded with Jennifer Jason Leigh, right? I mean,
that's the way the editing plays out. I'm glad glad you brought this up. Yeah, I almost forgot to mention this. Yeah, I know what you're going to bring up.
Fucking C. Thomas Howell comes running out, gets lost a bit, and then is led over to this scene by the police who are already there and have cordoned off the area where Jennifer Jason Leigh is bound to the truck. Like, you got to do it one way or the other here. Either show us that, she's been abducted and this has happened, or like you can't have that both ways. It really bothered me.
I'm 100% right there with you. That scene is poorly edited. It makes it. How did he set it all up so quickly? Because there's almost no time lapse. It's immediate, right? It's immediate.
The problem is the intercutting between him and the shower and whatever. Like, had he gone into the shower and we gotten one brief thing of here's Rutger Hauer in the room with her, and then that's the last we see of it, okay, then we're fine. But they wanted us to just sort of ratchet the tension.
Well, they wanted it to be creepy.
And they worked.
It's creepy. I mean, he's in bed with her. That's awful.
Right. It's all great stuff, but like it doesn't make any sort of geographical sense once we get out the door and back into the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. I don't know why it's, and then you kind of compound it at the end of that scene with that weird fade to black. And it's like, it's just all kind of weird.
Yeah.
A lot of compromises were made for that scene.
Right. And it, and they're dancing around it. So, and I think I'm sure Robert Harmon was attempting mightily to move. He knows that the scene is the scene of contention with all of the suits and everything, like, from the get-go. So he has to downplay it because he knows it's going to be horrific anyway. I'm sure that's what it was, but that doesn't let him off the hook for what that was. They could have just had Jim Halsey wake up and she was gone,
Yeah. Or anything.
Yeah. How much she took the shower, and literally anything they could have done. Other than that, thumbs up.
Yeah. Heather, final thoughts on The Hitcher.
It's a horror masterpiece. I highly recommend it, and especially if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of great acting, if you're just a fan of great filmmaking, highly, highly recommended. It's a true gem.
Father Malone?
Agree with that sentiment 100%. Yeah, it's the two little quibbles I have prevent it from being a perfect film, but it is a great film, a great fucking movie. If you haven't seen it, please watch this and not that horrible thing. And let me rail a little bit more now. If you do see it, if you have HBO Max, do not fucking stream this movie through HBO Max. They're showing their fucking VHS transfer from like 1985. It's cropped and muddy and despicable. Don't watch the movie this way. Watch it on DVD or buy it or rent it or find it. Do something. Watch this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. What's funny is I didn't realize until I moved to the West Coast and started driving back and forth between Los Angeles and Las Vegas that this entire movie was shot on the road, basically to LA. Like, I now have been to most of the locations in this film, like sort of not even realizing, just kind of like looking around like, this seems familiar. Let me see if it's been in any movies. The Hitcher. All right. So I think it hits on whatever personal things like I got out of it. I think it hits on like big, stark, like iconic American imagery, like a spaghetti Western almost, but like made here in America by Americans. And is as elemental a story as you're ever going to get, where to me, what everyone criticizes about the movie is an absolute asset, particularly its adherence to not giving us any reasons for any of this happening. It isn't a spoon feeding of the audience. There's, some filmmakers just want you to experience the story on your own. And this one is one of the best examples of it.
So to let you know, Father Malone and Heather, I don't know if you all know, but Second Sight Film sometime this year, if they haven't already, are releasing The Hitcher on 4K. And they found the negatives. So
Weed. I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah. No, I started watching it on HBO Max, and whoa, man, just the fact that that's on a major platform for streaming is kind of insane.
I still have my VHS of The Hitcher, and I'll send you that if your only option is to watch it on HBO Max, because it's a better quality.
Yeah, this movie has had some like weird issues getting to a 1080 version. So thankfully, we're finally getting it this year with 4K Blu-ray and normal Blu-ray. So even better. So as for me, I think this is my favorite movie of the month. I don't think that's surprising in any form or fashion. The reason that it's the last movie of the month, I think, should be indicative of how good it is. Last month, we watched Death Wish. That was the best movie that month. This movie is the best movie this month. Is it always that way on this show? No, we don't always do the best movie at the end. Just happened to be that way the last 2 months. And this is the best movie I've seen this month, bar none. And it's the best Rutger Hauer performance. And this will be a movie I return to often, probably more so than even Blade Runner, frankly. If I want to see the Rutger Hauer performance that I like, I'll watch this movie.
This is a better movie than Blade Runner anyway.
It's also an hour and 30 minutes. It's
insanely brief, right?
Yeah, it's in and out the door.
This movie is 100% economy. I love when it seems like it's easy to do a simple thing, but it obviously is the hardest thing in the world, because this kind of movie isn't made that often.
Right. And not this well, that's for sure.
No, there's always something off kilter where you don't give a shit about one element or another. Here, I'm with both of these characters, all three of the characters, Nash as well, from jump, and I believe everything that happens, and I love it.
I'm with you. So on that note, we'll take a break and we'll play a preview for the first Culture Cast of September.
This is an English public school. This is where Britain raised its empire builders of yesterday and still trains its leaders of tomorrow. This is the unchanging English public school. This is where you still learn to play the game.
The angles of the one equal the angles of the other. Understand, Brody?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Far from home, far from your family, you learn what to expect from life.
Just remember that life here is a matter of give and take. We are your new family, and you must expect the rough and tumble that goes with any family life.
In this world, you have to watch out for yourself and obey the rules, as in the world outside. But some people are born to break the rules.
You three have become a danger to the morale of the whole house, and we've decided to beat you for it.
I serve the nation. You haven't the slightest idea what it means, have you?
You mean that bit of wool on your tit?
With its freedom and excitement, its visions and its dreams, this is the world of youth, a world of fantasy that sometimes turns to strange violence.
Look at me. I'll kill you.
You won't forget them. Christine Noonan as the girl, Malcolm McDowell as Mick the rebel, Richard Warwick, and David Wood as his friends who share a secret loyalty. Three young people who reject a world that the old have made and decide to take things into their own hands. If may shock you, it will surely surprise you. It's a film that will make you take sides. Which side will you be on?
That's right. On the first CultureCast September, it's a little friend of ours, Mr. Father Malone, programming the month. And Father Malone, since you're here, why don't I let you let the audience know what movies we're going to be talking about?
I'm going completely navel gazing programming this month and programming all prep school movies, movies that mean a lot to me. Sort of having gone through that process of education, and ultimately, I think a sampling of the best of that genre. I think we're watching If first, correct?
We're watching If next week, and then the week after, Heaven Help Us. Week after that, Chocolate War, which I need to get on reading the book that I have of that so that I'm well prepared. And then we're rounding out the month with Toy Soldiers.
Yes, Toy Soldiers. Yeah, Toy Soldiers.
Yeah, I've never seen any of these movies.
Really? None of them?
None of them. You've never seen September, literally.
Well, that's great. I'm glad I structured it that way.
Yeah. So until then, Heather, where can people find you? What's going on over at Mondo-Heather?
Of course, you can find me at my website, which is Mondo-Heather.com, as well on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Mondo-Heather. And if you find listeners are fans of Arrow Films, I did an article recently for their blog on the 1980s horror film Hell High, where I not only explore that film, but also explore the notion of basically the hellishness of being a teenager and taking that to kind of an extremity. So you can check that out. And I have a Patreon at Mondo-Heather. I love that that's my last. Wait a minute. The thing that actually gives me a tiny bit of money. Yes, please visit my Patreon at Mondo-Heather, and you'll have access to sneak peeks, exclusives, and just the randomness that is my brain.
What about you, Father Malone? What's going on over at fathermalone.com?
I'm about say neck deep in production of episode 2 of my show Wolf and Raisin, the Banachek podcast. That's a video podcast to do with my partner HP. So that shall be forthcoming. I guess you and I and Mr. Mike White are sort of lost inside the night gallery constantly. So I'm sure there are links there on fathermalone.com to that as well. And you can also hear my show Dark Destinations, which is a half-hour radio drama that I write and produce. That's what's going on at fathermalone.com. Too much, I guess.
As for cstatue.com, things are various and varied over there. You can listen to all the things that I work on, including this show. Father Malone mentioned some things. Rankin on Bass, Scary Stories We Tell, all the good things. That's where you can find them, cstatue.com. As for this show, culturecast.com, culturecast on all social media, but social media is a fucking drag these days. So just listen to the show, like, rate, and review on iTunes. That's all you got to do, folks. You got to listen. And if you want to do the whole Patreon thing, Patreon.com/culturecast. But you know what? Just listen. That's free. It's free for all of us. So, yeah. Father Malone, Heather, thank you guys for joining me. As always.
My pleasure.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.